Chapter 8, Managing Emotional Flashbacks. So the book goes into practical steps for managing an emotional flashback, which includes, there are 13 of them, and this list can be printed off from the author's website. Say to yourself, I am having an emotional flashback. Remind yourself, I feel afraid, but I'm not in danger. Own your right or need to have boundaries. Speak reassuringly to your inner child. Deconstruct eternity thinking. Remind yourself you are in an adult body with allies, skills, and resources. Ease back into your body. Gently ask your body to relax, breathing deeply and slowly. Slow down. Find a safe place. Feel the fear in your body without reacting to it. Resist the inner critics drasticizing and catastrophizing. Use thought stopping and use thought substitution and thought correction. Allow yourself to grieve. Cultivate safe relationships and seek support. Learn to identify the types of triggers that lead to flashbacks. Figure out what you are flashing back to. Be patient with a slow recovery process. The book talks about, goes into triggers. Recognizing what triggers us can be difficult, as it can often happen on a subliminal level. External triggers such as people, places, events, things, faces, style of communications, etc. So, for example, seeing someone who resembles an abuser, the anniversary of an event, hearing a shaming tone or phrase, revisiting your parents. Sometimes they are less obvious or abstract, like making a mistake, asking for help, having to speak in front of a group of people. Being sick, lonely, tired, hungry, or in pain can make these worse. And authority figures can be the ultimate trigger. The author discusses the idea of psyching yourself up for what the flashback is, instead of what we think it's about. So, like when he talks about doing public speaking, then he knows it's about an example in his childhood, so he psychs up for his childhood example rather than for the public speaking. The book talks about the look. I doubt that would be a look in anyone, but yeah. There is a look that people can give that exudes contempt, and that can be enough to set off a flashback. A raised voice adds to it. The look rarely terrifies a child into obedience unless it has been previously paired with hitting or other bad consequences. So it's like conditioning. It may not just, it's probably not a one-off, it's a Pavlov's dog situation. We can transfer our memories onto another when they give us the look, particularly with authority figures. The book then goes into internal versus external triggers. So internal is the inner critic, and we can worry ourselves into a flashback with negative noticing and catastrophizing. And there are ways to resource ourselves from this. Then it talks about progressive trigger recognition, avoiding triggers where it's practical to do so, recognizing when we might need to face them and doing it consciously, practicing flashback management. Recognizing the moment of triggering is more important than the trigger itself. Early recognition can halt the trigger from escalating. And resolving a flashback takes time for the biochemical imbalances to subside. So, like, a healthy version of self-medication could be recognizing this and doing activities to help until those imbalances subside, and then moving on with something else. Whereas a less healthy self-medication is switching to those things and then staying there. Signs of being in flashback: feeling small, helpless, alone, ashamed to go out. The critic has increased, both inner and outer. The emotional reactions are out of proportion. When we're not aware, we can explode outwards at others or inwards towards ourselves. Or we choose healthy flashback management, recognizing the signs of trauma when we were younger. We can transform our anger into healthy grrr about how we were brought up. I think I put grrr because I didn't want to keep writing exactly what you'd said. Self-medication can be another sign of flashbacks, reaching for self-medication. And as I said earlier, this is a continuum. It can be healthy usage at one end. If we notice a real strong urge to self-medicate, that's definitely a sign of flashback. Flashbacks in therapy sessions can be really useful. I've experienced this, where it feels like the flashback is primed to come out at the point where support will be there to help you be guided through it. And the book, it talks about an example of in a therapy session where offering the client saying, "Do you think you might be in a flashback?" and then realizing that yes, they were, and then going through a grieving process and anger about that flashback, working through it. Inner critic management, noticing when it comes up, we can tell it to go away. And we can remind ourselves of all the positive experiences we've had. My own experience with that, I've got this thing that, like, if we're asked to say the positives first and then the negatives, often I feel like I need to say the negatives first to get them out of the way, so that then I can move on to the positives and know that they're there. Their book then goes into waking up in abandonment depression. This can happen when dreams trigger flashbacks. If you can remember the dream, you can figure out sometimes why the trigger happened, and you can observe how the previous day's events created the dream. It's hardest when you can't remember the dream at all. My own experiences of this have been with morning pages, that if I
GPS signal lost.
If I do morning pages, before I get out of bed, before I do anything, before I turn my phone on, writing things out, then dreams are more likely to come back to me doing that. And flashbacks, as recognizing the flashback as an inner child's plea for help. Managing the pain of waking up in this way, of drasticizing and trying to rush through the day to outrun it. The book talks about existential triggers, understanding that all humans are subject to painful events. Like, if our social media is full of just positive stuff, then we might think we're shit if we have negative stuff going on in our lives. It's really good to have a mixed bag. Understanding we all experience these is helpful to remember, and the same with mood shifts as well. Being in a mood shift that creates a flashback. The book talks about going into dissociation as a way to avoid the flashback, and then the inner child experiences this as reverting to pre-recovery adult and wants to be heard. I feel like I've had a bit of that going on recently. Later stages of recovery. understanding that flashbacks are appropriate but delayed reaction to childhood, processing them in a way that resolves them to help reduce the flashbacks, and eventually self-protection kicks in at the hint of a trigger. And then the last bit is helping kids manage emotional flashbacks, which is basically the same as the opening bit, just written in a different way. There we go.